Martin Heidegger was a German philosopher, the first of which to analyze the question of being. Heidegger studied at the University of Freiburg, where he later served as rector. Heidegger is driven by his search to find inner truth and greatness to overcome the question of being, or the problem of nihilism. Nihilism, or the oblivion of being, must be carried through to its endpoint in order to arrive at another beginning. This new beginning is the revitalization Heidegger exacts for the university as rector. When answering the question of being, Heidegger follows Nietzsche in that everything in life is permitted. Given that nothing is fundamentally true, when there is no being, then there is only becoming and no fixed standard or eternal truth. Denial of God destroys all basis of good and evil, and the destruction of basis for moral law. Nihilism results from this. Nihilism is Plato's redefinition of being as an eternal presence, or God in Western tradition. Heidegger sees two options of nihilism: denial of being the first, which includes denial of all categories and standards that bring out the most banal and brutal passions. The second being obliteration of all categories and standards for the purpose of making an original experience or mystery. The politics of the region were infused with a populist Catholicism which Heidegger practiced and often implicated anti-Semitic ideas or references. In 1917, the Russian Revolution deeply affected the face of the region and its citizens. While inspiring the working class in Germany, fear and horror spread to citizens in the rural South, mainly Catholics. After World War I, the economy fell drastically and never truly recovered. With all these events, they culminated to create the perfect setting for Hitler to rise to power. In April of 1933, Heidegger became rector of Freiburger University 3 months after Hitler came to power. His infamous inaugural address was delivered on May 27th of 1933, which secretly aimed to mobilize students and faculty to serve the Nazi regime. Heidegger said most notably in his speech, "Whoever does not serve this battle lies where he falls. The new courage must accustom itself to steadfastness, for the battle for the institutions where our leaders are educated will continue for a long time. It will be fought out of the strengths of the new reign that Chancellor Hitler will bring to reality. A hard race with no thought of self must fight this battle, a race that lives from constant testing and that remains directed toward the goal to which it has committed itself. It is a battle to which is determined who shall be the teachers and leaders at the university." Critics came forth exactly after this speech, and soon after, Heidegger was recognized to have sympathies for the Nazi Party. Heidegger was involved in several questionable principles following that gave away his disillusionment by the Nazis. On August 21st of the same year, Heidegger established the Führer principle at Freiburger. That meant that the rector would not be able to be elected anymore by the faculty, as it had been accustomed to, but when they be appointed by the Nazi Minister of Education. In this capacity, the Führer rector would have absolute authority over the university. If this were to happen, Heidegger would achieve his true goal, which was to control the whole university all along, under Hitler's reign. On November 3rd of 1933, the Nazis' law was initiated by Heidegger for racial cleansing to the student body of the university that denied financial aid to Jews and Marxists. Publicly, this statement showed that Heidegger supported the ideologies of Hitler. Immediately following Hitler's seizure of power, Heidegger joined the Nazis. The Nazis attempted to give a new meaning to man that was admired by Heidegger. He saw that those in power were often unskilled in their respective areas and were far more capable of a higher level of thinking. Heidegger's connection to the regime is proven by payments made to the Nazi Party known as the NSDAP from 1933 to 1945. This shows that he was an active member. After 1933, Heidegger denies that political action can overcome the flattening of the spirit in the technological world. He proposes instead to revitalize the German nation. One must establish a new rootedness in a different homeland, by initiating a dialogue between the most profound thinkers of the Occident and those of the Orient. Heidegger finds eventually in that the recognition of being as technology and history is concerned is none other than the liberation of man to accept his own essence as a human being. This stems Heidegger's preparation for a revolution. His plan involved 3 steps. The first being to liberate man from all categories and standards of man, and to confront the second, fostering contemporary nihilism by calling man to confront his death and meaningless, and the third, convincing man to accept his particular fate within his own destiny of his given generation in the revelation of being. With the absence of political philosophy, Heidegger's philosophy shifted from an activist stance to what Strauss sees as a replacement of philosophic reflection on politics and ethics with a faithful disposition on being or with the gods. Heidegger evolved his philosophy to where it paralleled with the principles he exacted as rector of the university. Heidegger viewed nihilism as the final consequence for this misconception of being, and that's what he identified with the Nazi Party.